Hello everybody, welcome into Talladega Superspeedway live tonight with PGR eSports. Summer Slam, not quite pre-race yet, still got a couple weeks before that, but tonight what we do have is a recruitment race. 5 entries from what we understand going to be given away to the Summer Slam here tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Figured that we'd give the drivers and some of you fans watching at home the chance to see what we could potentially see in the coming weeks as we continue the build-up towards the Summer Slam. So without further ado, let's get right into the action here tonight. Going to be broken up into 2 heats, followed by the feature. We'll get into that race info in just a moment. But Heat 1, after qualifying has been complete, Alex Hill takes the pole for Nightmare Esports. He will start on the inside in first. Ken McCullough Jr. to his outside in second. It's going to be Landon Veliky back in the 3rd position with Chris Walker in 4th. Denny Barnes back in 5th. Mike Davenport in 6th. Brock Westmoreland for PGR eSports in 7th with Adam Young in 8th. David Flanagan 9th. And Ron Morris Jr. from McCullough Motorsports. He will round out your top 10. John Darnell will roll off from the 11th spot here tonight. It's going to be Wyatt Gray back in 12th. Moving on back to row number 7. It's going to be Kirk Martin and Wade Palmer. Philip Willis will roll off 15th here tonight in the 33 car. To his outside, it's going to be Billy Vest in the 60 machine. Grant Gutter 17th with Edward Fielder in 18th. Tyler Vickery back in 19th, and Andrew Zotto. Good to see him making a return to the field here tonight. He will roll off 20. Now, I do apologize if I get some of these names incorrect. Still getting everybody's pronunciations right, but it looks like we do have, I believe it's Teresa Speicher starting in the 21st position, Doug Helfer in 22nd, Jeremy May in 23rd with Tony Richards back in 24th. Then in 25th, you've got Tyler Forby with Greg Speicher in 26th. Terry Wilson 27th. Looks like Estefania Castro in that 28th spot. Alex Wiggins in 29th. And Tucker McClendon will round out Heat 1. He will roll off in 30th. All right, looking a little bit more of what the race breakdown is looking like here tonight. Again, it is the SummerSlam 499 recruitment race. Already had a couple of these, but another one here tonight. Before we talk about the prize payouts, you might notice we are in the Xfinity cars. This is the same car that will be run for the SummerSlam on July 27th and 28th. 2 10-lap heats will determine the field here tonight. Everybody had a chance to qualify. That is how their order will be set for both of these heats. And then the feature will be a 20-lap race. Looking like fuel mileage in these cars is somewhere at about 40%, 40 to 45. Unlimited tires. Don't believe these guys have a fast pair fixed setups, and then 3 green-white checkers, which again, believe would only apply to that feature, of course, if we were to need them. So along with the drivers getting a feel for what they could expect in a couple weeks, we're doing the same up here in the broadcast booth now. Solo here tonight, but it does look like what we have, we'll call it semi-official. We'll go ahead and announce it, I'm sure, either this week or next week during the PGR Thursday night broadcast, but it's looking like it's going to be the official broadcast crew for the PGR SummerSlam event will be me, Austin Green, Dawson Wise, Jacob Emery, Michael Truscaro, and Cody Nagels. And so there will be a split between all of us for each of the different events. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to race day. But here we go. 5 entries into the SummerSlam for your top 5 here tonight. And it all starts with advancing to the feature. Heat 1 is underway. Green flag in the air at Talladega. Roaring down the Alabama gang backstretch for the first time here tonight. It's Alex Hill who leads the charge on the outside. Landon Veliky, you know that's going to be 2 of the favorites here tonight. Ken McCullough Jr., throw him in the mix as well. But a lot of new names with a big opportunity here tonight. Again, you don't have to win. You just got to find your way up inside the top 5. We'll see who can get the job done here tonight. Watch for everybody to be making moves pretty much every lap because it's only a 10-lap sprint. That is not a lot of time here at Talladega for a field that's 30 deep. So who's going to make the move first? That will be the question. But for the first lap, everybody stays nice and organized 2 by 2. The outside rolls a little bit better now. Veliky will get the advantage, but not for long. Hill starts to fight back on the inside. Who can get more organization first? I think it's going to be that top lane. You see Danny Barnes laying back just a little bit now. He'll give a shot to the 77 of Alex Hill. But it's that strong tandem, 2-3 cars deep on the outside that will get Veliky clear. And as he jumps down to the inside, that now opens the door up for Ken McCullough Jr., the captain for McCullough Motorsports, to see what he can make happen right here. And I'm looking back towards the middle of this pack for somebody like Tyler Vickery, maybe even one of the new guys such as Kirk Martin. Somebody's got to find a way to get this third lane going. They got to get it going quick. Veliky had big trouble at the front of the field. He was off below the apron. Looks like he saved it, but he fell way back. What in the world happened here to Landon Veliky? He slides back in line, it looks like, just in front of the 23. Back this all the way up. This is coming out of turn 4. I think him and Alex Hill, maybe just a little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact here that didn't quite go as planned. Watch this from the chopper view. And the 77, oh, just a little bit. That's just a push gone wrong. And Alex Hill, very aggressive. Landon Veliky can be equally as aggressive, but a little bit newer to the series. And that's just two guys not really sharing the best connection with each other. Both save it, so both will continue on. Outside line right now, only one man trying to make a charge, and that is the 43 machine of Wade Palmer. He realizes that there's not much to be made, though, so he's going to try to duck back down in line. And he does, gets right in front of the 17 machine of Andrew Zonto. Zonto looks like he's maybe thinking about trying to sneak to the middle here. He's got to be careful. Doug Helfer is looking to make him 3 wide there as they go into turn 1. He'll take another peek at it. And so again, we're already 3 laps of 10 complete and still no third lane to have been organized, at least not yet. Now looking at track temp here tonight, 131 degrees. I mean, that's scorching. That is more than enough for these cars to get hot in a hurry and that third lane to get going. Gonna try it again is, trouble a little bit further back in the field. We had a couple guys off track, it looked like. Tony Richards and I think Teresa Speicher, both with issues. Teresa has retired from this race, as Tony with major damage as well. This was on the restart, actually. Not sure what happened here. I think it was a checkup meant to show it as it happened. And yep, there's the 52 of Tony Richards as he gets turned. And then Teresa, not sure what happened to her. We'll check on that in just a moment as caution is out for trouble. For the first time here tonight, 6 laps complete, and it was trouble a little bit further back. Andrew Zonto's involved, as is Grant Gutter. In the 099, Zonto, I think, is able to get, well, he looks like he is able to get back rolling, but that car is pretty banged up. The 218, no rear bumper or rear deck lid. That'll be another race-ending, probably race-ending damage for Kirk Martin if these guys don't have a fast repair. So let's go see here where this one goes wrong before we go back and look at a couple of those other incidents. Did somebody blow an engine here? I thought I saw a big puff of smoke. Yep. Oh my goodness. Wow, I've never seen something like this. Watch the front hood of Danny Barnes. You would... Hold on, before I get ahead of myself here, we got to actually get a better angle on this. I don't think I've ever seen something like this, though, if it's what I think it is. And the whole time I've been broadcasting iRacing, watch the 7 of Danny Barnes and watch the hood on this car right here. He's pushing Ken McCullough Jr. and bam! I mean, just blows the front end of that race car off. You see the hood flying through a couple of the other cars now. Brock Westmoreland, he had nowhere to go. And I'll tell you what I think happened here. I think a cockpit view will kind of confirm. I think that was some sort of rear bumper netcoat off Ken McCullough Jr. And we see this once in a while, but I don't know if we've ever seen it to this extent. Oh my goodness, that's exactly what it is. Well, there's nothing you can do as a driver in this case. We call it netcode because iRacing thinks there's some sort of contact occurring there. Well, I say contact. I'm not talking about the contact of them pushing each other. I'm thinking more so he thinks, or iRacing thinks there's something going on where Danny Barnes is hitting Ken McCullough Jr. really hard, but as he's, just slightly push him, it just, as soon as that netcode occurs, again, just destroys the front end of Danny Barnes. Brock Westmoreland had nowhere to go as that checkup probably dropped that line. I don't know, maybe down 10, 20 miles an hour within a half a second or so. And yeah, when that happens, especially at the front of the pack, there's just going to be absolutely nowhere to go here for really anybody in the field. As the 7 of Danny Barnes and Brock Westmoreland, they go for a spin through the trioval grass. I think Brock was able to somewhat hold on to it, but the real chaos was even further up the track, as you saw Kirk Martin spinning right there. And so that first wreck kind of cleared out, but then there's going to be a secondary incident right here where looks like as that hood's flying through, John Darnell just gets run into. Yeah, the back end gets run into that car, and that turns him straight up the racetrack. I think that was Tyler Vickery, yep, the 124, who had nowhere to go. That rips apart the suspension for John Darnell Jr. Now he can't control the car either. You got guys going up into the safer barriers, spinning down, T-boning each other. It's chaos. That's what Talladega is, and when you get a wreck at the front of the field, that is certainly what can happen. Let's get a couple more looks at this one here from a couple different angles. First shot I want to look at here is from the blimp cam. Back this up again, and we're going to show you this at full speed. Watch the 7 here of Danny Barnes, second in line on the inside. Kaboom, right there as it shoots that car back. Brock Westman nowhere to go, and then the chaos from there. The 99 of Darnell's in it, Andrew Zotto, and a whole bunch of others. Give you one more view of this here from TV1. And so all these big hits that we saw, especially in this wreck, a result of, well, something that nobody did wrong. Saw a lot of good racing up to that point, but I mean, that netcode, you wonder if it's going to shy anybody away from trying to push, at least throughout the rest of this heat. I don't think so. You still got to go for it. After all, it is a recruitment race. These guys don't really have a lot on the line here tonight, so looks like we'll get the 1-to-go signal, and this will give us a restart with, looks like 3 laps to go. All right, so looking at your top 10, Alex Hill leads the way. For Nightmare Esports, Ken McCullough Jr. in second, Chris Walker, one of the drivers to keep an eye on here tonight in the 23. I know a couple sponsors have their eye on this driver, and by the way, that goes for everybody on track here tonight. I can promise you, I've been around in the industry here long enough to know that there are always sponsors watching, sometimes more than others, but they are looking for what new drivers can do a good job holding lanes, making moves, making their way to the front, and keeping it clean. And so if you're ever looking to get yourself into one of these big races via sponsor, come out here and try to perform in the races that you can get into for free, if you will. As I believe it was a $3 entry tonight for the guys that we're used to seeing, and then there was, I believe it was 30 sponsored positions given away. So we'll have to see what happens here. Anyway, getting back to your top 10, Mike Davenport in 4th, Ron Morris Jr. 5th, Adam Young back in 6th, Billy Vest in 7th, Wyatt Gray in 8th. He's up 4 spots from where he started, but your biggest mover inside the top 10 is Tucker McClendon. He's 9th, and David Flanagan rounds out your top 10. Going back here to see if some of these guys did indeed have a faster pair. Nope, so it looks like they are indeed off here tonight. And so that causes an extra tough break for a couple of drivers. By the way, this was the incident that happened to Teresa Speicher. That we're trying to figure out exactly what went wrong for her. And, oh, that's a big hit for the 70, almost up and over. As that incident looked like happened down the backstretch. That was, I think, about a lap, maybe half a lap prior to the incident that actually brought out the caution. So that will bring her night to an end as well. All right, pace car pulls off. It's going to be a green-white checkered +1, but a natural one, so I don't think we have any actual green-white checkers. If we do and we don't make it to the white flag, then maybe we'll see some overtime. But for now, it's go time. Who is going to rise to the occasion? As it stands, Mike Davenport and Adam Young, the last 2 drivers that would get themselves a free entry into the SummerSlam. Green flag is back in the air. Excuse me, not the SummerSlam, but would make it into, of course, the feature. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but his green flag is back in the air. Up front, Alex Hill, oh, wrecking out back, trouble. 2 off, down on the apron. Everybody else trying to say that's the 34 of Terry Wilson. Looks like Estefania in the 54 trying to get it back going. Terry Wilson, we already saw the damage he got from that. Will they be able to continue on? Still trying to hold it together out back. This has really thinned out the pack up front. And by the way, I meant to say, again, that top 5 will be for the feature, but with these 2 heats, it's the top 15 from this heat race that will advance into that feature. So right now, as it stands, you go all the way back to the 15th spot, and it's quite a battle because of all the separation, but it looks like Edward Fielder is the last man that would advance. Tyler Forby just behind him. We'll keep an eye on that transfer position. But right now, these guys are coming to 2 laps to go at the front of the field. How are things going to pan out? Alex Hill on the top of the racetrack. He's got a good push from Ken McCullough Jr. down into turn number 1. Chris Walker on the bottom, still holding it nice and steady. He's got some help right now from the 22 of Adam Young. That bottom lane really needs to get grouped up a little bit better, though. The tighter the lane, the more momentum they're going to make, and that's why you see that outside with a big surge here down the backstretch. If Hill gets clear, you wonder, does he jump back to the bottom? He's not going to have the chance to. Adam Young was able to get to the 8 of the 23 just in time. He'll keep him even through 3 and 4. Got to make it to the white flag for this heat to be official. Can they keep it clean? A short stretch and a trial to go to make it that way. Ken McCullough Jr. still on the outside. You wonder, does the 03 think anything of 3 wide? Here we go. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go in heat number 1. 77 of Alex Hill still well in control up top. The 23 fighting to stay even on the bottom. Adam Young followed by the 60 of Billy Vest on the bottom. They're all in great position. You look back a little bit further on the outside, the 24 up top. Does he think about making a move? We've got guys that are in great positions, but who's going to make the move first? Does David Flanagan maybe back off, try to jump up high? What does Davenport do? Hill gets clear. As he goes to the inside, a lapper is going to pull out of the way up front. That's Terry Wilson. 2 by 2, final time through 3 and 4 in Heat 1. Alex Hill has led them all just about up to this point. Can he lead all the way home? Ken McCullough Jr. is going to jump out. Does he get any help? No, he doesn't. Davenport's going to stay to the middle. Now he'll get some help out back from the 24. 3 wide through the trial, but now they're going to start to beat Bang Wreck It out back. 3 wide all the way to the checkers. Ken McCullough Jr. wins Heat 1. The 3 wide move paid off at a turn 4, and Ken McCullough Jr. is your Heat 1 winner. And so I believe he will start on the pole for the feature event. Looking at your top 15, though, and everybody that advanced, Tyler Forby looks like is able to sneak in, as not sure who it was that he was able to pass there at the end. But we'll look at these results here really quick before we move on to Heat 2. And again, we're only really concerned more so about your top 15. We'll try to see if we can go through all 30 drivers here before we get Heat 2 underway, which, again, will be in just a moment. But what an exciting way to get this thing started. I mean, 10 laps, and it did not disappoint. I know we had that one caution, but to a degree almost to be expected. Sometimes that's the way it goes, but certainly a lot of great racing still. So Ken McCullough Jr., he's going to bring it across the line. He doesn't care that it's a heat or not. He's burning this thing down. Got the job done, and see if he's got any more teammates that can find their way into the feature via heat number 2 here. All right, so let's take a look at your results here. Finishing results for Heat 1 before we look at the starting grid for Heat 2. Ken McCullough Jr. was your Heat winner. Chris Walker 2nd. Alex Hill 3rd. Ron Morse Jr. in 4th. Landon Velicky back in 5th. Wyatt Gray 6th. Adam Young in 7th. Tucker McClendon back in 8th. Billy Vest 9th. And Mike Davenport rounds out your top 10. Brock Westmoreland 11th. David Flanagan in 12th. Edward Fielder 13th with Philip Willis in 14th. Tyler Forby, the last man to advance into the feature, he finishes in 15th. Kirk Martin back in 16th. It's going to be Wade Palmer in 17th. Andrew Zonto 18th. And Terry Wilson, Doug Helfer round out your top 20. Danny Barnes 21st, Greg Spitzer 22nd, Estefania Castro in 23rd, Tony Richards in 24th, Jeremy May 25th, Grant Gutter 26th, John Darnell 27th, Tyler Vickery 28th. It's going to be Teresa Spitzer in 29th and Alex Wiggins rounding out your top 30. All right, let's take a look now at what your starting grid is here for Heat number 2 as the drivers get down track side. It looks like they're just getting ready to get rolling. So taking the pole for this heat, of course, means qualified second overall is going to be Matt Lee. That's another one of the Nightmare Esports drivers. Devin Ray back in 2nd. J.R. Miller for PGR Esports will roll off 3rd. Kenny Reel in 4th. Richard Elliott back in 5th with Mark Vondell in 6th. Bobby Forbes 7th. Benjamin Richards in 8th. Moving on back and rounding out your top 10 here tonight is going to be Joshua Sutherland and Brian Hennings in the 74. Adam Tahan in 11th with Ethan Eckert back in the 12th spot. Moving a row back. In fact, make it row number 7. It's going to be Freddie. Oh, excuse me. Went just a little bit too far. Freddie Bazanes. And looks like Rafe Hatlin. Todd Macy 15th, Kyle Petrie in 16th. You've got Ryan Philbrick in 17th with Grayson Underwood in 18th. Garrett Cronenwet in 19th and Garrett Caswell rounding out your top 20. Brandon Yates in the 15 machine will start back in 21st. Jonathan Herbert in 22nd. Sierra Clamper, one of the fan favorites, she will roll off 23rd here tonight. Ashley Ellison Jr. in 24th. We're going to roll back from there. Starting in 25th is going to be Noah Lurch. Joey Galati in 26th. Nim Silva, 27th. Stephen Ross, 28th. Chad Waller in 29th. And Paula Walker rounds out your top 30. Race info is going to be the exact same here for heat number 2, 10 laps. And again, cautions are on, it looks like. Not sure if we have any green light checkers for the heats or not. But no fast repair, so I think this is another setup where I like the idea of just getting on the horse and going right from the start here. Be aggressive, try to get that third lane going. Now, it does usually take a couple laps for there to be some progress to be made. You got to wait for everybody on the inside and the middle to start to get hot for that third lane to really surge, but 10 laps, certainly not a long ways to go. And I don't know. I'll tell you what, I was wondering what it was going to be for which heat was more stacked, and I don't think I have an answer right now because both of them were pretty stacked, and as it stands right now, we're getting ready to find out who's going to be your Heat 2 winner. Green flag is in the air. And Matt Lee, Devin Ray with a pretty even restart. Going a couple rows back. Richard Elliott staying pretty organized on the bottom, but Mark Fundell not quite the best start. So they'll all try to continue to get through the gears, get up to speed. Further back, a little bit of disorganization as they're going to stay 2 by 2 all the way back to Nim Silva. And looking on the outside there, that's Ashley Ellison. She's going to make a move around the outside, and looks like the 87 of Jonathan Herbert's going to duck to the inside of the 3 of Garrett Caswell. And I know you want to be aggressive for those positions further back, but again, you got to help each other when you come to these super speedways to try to make your way to the front. Can't lose the pack. As speaking of that, oh man, we almost had some contact in the middle portions of the pack. Saw somebody wash up a little bit, and that was almost the big one here on lap 1. Matt Lee working the top of the racetrack with a push from Devin Ray. J.R. Miller on the bottom with Richard Elliott. We'll see if Devin Ray is content to push the 4 for a while. Well, he's going to push him enough to get him clear, so he'll jump right back down to the bottom of the racetrack. And so as he does, looks like Devin Ray now, Kenny Reel, they're going to start to surge up top. How about this for some momentum? The 2 looking to see if he can make a statement here tonight. Was keeping around a couple drivers in the first heat, and now he's looking to see if he can win one himself. Third lane's getting formed up. Here we go. Look up top. It's the 54 machine. I believe, not sure if that's Todd Macy or one of the other guys that we have running in the 54 here tonight. But trying to get to the front, this is what you got to do. Only 9 laps to go. You got to find a way to get to the front now. Ethan Eckert will now take charge, take the point, if you will, of this third lane. And the organization continues to form up top, but the question is, do they have enough help? Usually you need at least 3, maybe 4. And oh, they got that. Vondell's going to get squeezed out of shape for just a moment. Man, that was another big moment, as I think that was the 56 of Benjamin Richards that just hit him a little offset. Up front, Lee's going to go back to the top, but the 3 wide continues in the middle, and a lot of cars are bouncing around now. I don't know how much longer they can keep this up. 54 still on the outside of the racetrack, giving a big push. And again, we're still working on names and paint schemes, trying to get everybody matched up, so we need to make sure we figure out exactly who this is. Doing a phenomenal job pushing right now. And is it, I believe it might be, is it Joshua? Nope. Oh, wrecking. We got trouble. Big one, huge wreck coming out of turn 4. No caution yet. We keep it green, it looks like. Wow. Huge melee at the bottom of the racetrack. And ends up coming to rest by the wall, but that's going to tear up a lot of good cars. It looks like the suspension is broken for Ashley Ellison. She's not going to be able to continue. Just in front of her, Gary Cronenwit. Quite a bit of damage as well. So we'll keep things up front for now. No caution. We'll have to go back and look at that wreck, but it does look like Cody Nagels has joined us up here in the booth. So we'll bring him in here in just a second. Before we do, though, and I do want to go back and look at that wreck, but we got to keep it up front because this is still 3x3 action. Remember, top 15 advance to the feature. So right now, Garrett Caswell is the last man to advance, but Adam Tahan still has his draft, and I think Nim Silva might be barely hanging on as well. So at this point, I mean, if you're everybody in this front group, I think you keep things calm and relaxed the rest of the way, but it certainly doesn't seem that way. I'll tell you what, now that we got a chance, Cody, how you doing here tonight?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, Austin. I just got done with my league race. I figured I'd pop in and help you call the action. And honestly, as I'm looking up front, a lot of the familiar names that we, see on a daily basis with the money racing. I mean, you got guys like Matt Lee, Devin Ray, J.R. Miller, Richard Elliott, Bobby Forbes. You got to think them guys are going to be taking care of each other because there's a level of respect and trust since they race each other night in and night out. So I think guys like that with this heat, the guys that have familiarity, they're going to be working together as kind of the impromptu teammates, if you will.
Yeah, I would have to agree, but for what it's worth, I thought that Ken McCullough Jr. was going to stick behind Alex Hill coming to the line, and he won, but he did no such thing. So I still think we're going to see some aggression, especially as we get closer and closer to the end of this one. By the way, that is Freddie Pizanez on the outside in the 54, the man who's been doing all the pushing, and it doesn't end there. They're getting a little bit more help here, even further back. How about Ryan Philbrick? As right now, he's got a pretty good running spots, made up a couple positions from where he started this race at. Joshua Sutherland still running in this lead pack as well. 5 to go, make it 4.5 actually. As they work their way down the backstretch, Lee with another move down to the bottom, but man, he got really squirrely there as they work their way down the back.
Yeah, going back to the point you made about Kenny McCullough and Alex Hill, you have to think that's probably going to be chalked up as gamesmanship between the two, because you're going to have the friendly rivalries that are, within the money racing community, and I'm pretty sure that Kenny McCullough is not going to let Alex Hill beat him if he has anything to say about it. So I love the gamesmanship, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me at the very end if you see something similar with Devin Ray. He'll work with Matt Lee till the end, and I guarantee you when it comes down to it, wouldn't surprise me if he went for the win as well.
Would not surprise me either, but how about Ethan Eckert on the top? Was getting a lot of, I don't know what the word is, trash talk going on between him and a couple other guys in the PGR chat today, and he came out to prove a point, leading this pack in a very stacked group at that. J.R. Miller, Richard Elliott still working pretty good together on the bottom, but just seems like they're struggling to get momentum going. They're going to make another surge here through 3 and 4. But as we're coming to 3 laps to go, you got to think everybody in this top 4, maybe top 6, is starting to run out of temps, and I think that's exactly what happened at third line. As they are now going to fade, they'll go by one of the lappers here. But with just 3 laps to go, does that third lane have enough time to get recycled and make another surge all the way back to the front?
No, I really don't think the third's going to do a whole lot. The recent updates, I think, have kind of killed the third. The third's a little bit more viable in the Xfinity car than, I think they've completely killed it in the truck. But, if anyone can do it, I think Ethan Eckert is a good driver to lead that third. As you had pointed out, he had a lot of people that were, jabbing at him all day in the PGR Discord. But if you ask me, he's got a thing or two to learn still with the super speedways. Oh, and I have to stop because we are wrecking.
Caution is going to come out for this one as they're going to wreck them up big time in 3 and 4. Mark Von Dell's involved. Looks like so is the 2 of Devin Ray, who was doing so good up to that point. Sarah Clampert, her front bumper is going to fall off. Looks like the 11 of Kenny Reel will sneak by. I think Silva does as well in the 51. So first caution of the night, and Cody, I'm not sure on the exact format here on whether or not we'll go into overtime. If not, then this race would be official, but if we do, then we're going to rack them up for a two laps in overtime.
Man, that's weird. I don't know if maybe he had one of them slow-blown motors, Devin Ray that is, but it just looked like he started checking up like the motor was expiring, so not sure if that was the case, but very unfortunate break for Devin Ray, and actually a really good break for Ethan Eckert, because now all of a sudden, instead of being, stranded in the third, he now has good track position, and I can confirm there are 3 green-white checkers. Still plenty of racing left.
All right, well, there you go. We weren't sure about it earlier. We certainly are now, and you hit the nail on the head, Cody. Blown motor for the 2. We could hear it in the cockpit. Went kaboom. I'm not really sure why here because, well, let's see. Well, actually, I guess I do know why now. I was going to say it looked like he was in clean air for a little bit, but you see Matt Lee is going to drop down just about as they get into turn 3, so I feel like that's maybe something that's been a little bit new with the newer updates as well that we didn't used to see, but even though Devin got to clean air, I guess he might have been in the reds and just couldn't get out of the reds quick enough, and something gave way. Not sure if it was the oil temp or the water temp, but either way, you saw the puff of smoke. You'll see it pretty good here from the back view, and watch for it here. It's going to be probably about a second or two after Matt Lee jumps down to the bottom of the racetrack. Right there, you see the puff of smoke. Looks like kind of out of the right side, and once that happens, Kenny Reel, there's nothing he can do. They're 3 wide in the middle here, and he's just trying to find a way to not run him over. But unfortunately, that's a tough thing to do when you're in this spot at almost 200 miles an hour. And then once Devin Ray gets turned back up the racetrack, Mark Von Dell, huge hit into the outside wall as that car gets all 4 tires off the ground. And looks like the rest of them just all caught up in the scatter to try to miss it. That is certainly going to retire some of the drivers who we thought had a great shot at this one here tonight.
And going back on Ethan Eckert, what I was going to say is he made several, pretty key mistakes in the RMR race yesterday. But if you watch him, he holds a good line, and you can definitely see the talent. He's young. He kind of almost reminds me of like an Alex from a couple years ago, when I actually was first starting to see Alex, probably about a year and a half ago. But like he is, got a lot of raw talent. But he's just going to have to spend some time refining it and maybe fall under the tutelage of a more experienced driver. But he's going to be one to look out for once he gains that valuable knowledge running with the money racing community. And I think he's in the right group to be able to get that knowledge pretty quick, be fast tracked to that. But honestly, I've been pretty impressed from what I've seen from guys like Ethan Eckert.
I would have to completely agree. And it seems like sometimes you said Alex Hill. I was thinking of a little bit of a Logan York, maybe not quite as sassy to a degree, but in that case where, a lot of guys maybe didn't think Logan was going to be too much for the community at the start, and boy, has he turned out to be one of the best super speedway racers it's come to be. And I think a lot of guys now maybe wish they would have put him on their team a lot sooner, as they would have certainly been reaping those rewards right about now. But Ethan Eckert, we'll see how things pan out, because guess what? He is in the front row. Matt Lee still being scored as your leader. He's been the most dominant car, arguably, in this heat. Eckert, though, second. He's up 10 from where he started. J.R. Miller back in third. Freddie Bazanez. Freddie, I'll tell you what, if you watch this later, man, and I'm pronouncing the last name wrong, I apologize. We'll have it right for the SummerSlam. Just make sure you send me a message. That goes for any of the drivers watching here tonight, or any of the fans, family members, whoever's watching. If you hear me saying your driver's name wrong, please let me know. I'd be glad to try to correct it as long as I can try to fix it. So, Richard Elliott back in 5th. Ryan Philbrick in 6th. Bobby Forbes 7th. Joshua Sutherland in 8th. Kenny Real 9th. And Benjamin Richards rounds out your top 10. Brandon Yates back in 11th. Adam Tahan in 12th. Tim Silva 13th. Garrett Caswell in 14th. Looks like Rafe Hatlin in 15th. And he is currently the last man that would advance into the feature. Joey Galati and a lot of these other cars pretty banged up. We don't have that many clean cars after about 15 deep, so this shouldn't be too hard of an advance for the top 15 as long as they all keep it clean. But, I mean, green-white checkered for a driver, that's when they start to see the checkered flag and a win on the line. We'll see if they start going for it.
So a deal with Logan York that I've kind of learned about now that I've got to know him a little bit is, well, obviously we all know he's a troll, but I also feel like he's a little bit of a loner, and I know he doesn't like running. He doesn't like the idea of the bigger teams or the chopping, and normally if he runs with anyone, it's going to be with the teams that are like considered maybe like a little bit lower on the totem pole, I guess. Like he doesn't really want to be a part of the bigger teams. So I don't even think a team could probably even pick him up, honestly, because he likes being the lone wolf type. But I'll tell you one thing he will do is he goes into, like, you can get him in a hosted session. Me and Baker have done it, and usually he's all ears about, wheel settings or just anything to help him. Like, we were dialing in his field of view within the car because it was absolutely horrendous what that guy was on. But him having an open mind like he did is why he progressed like he did. But I'm going to send it back to you for the restart of this heat.
Could potentially be the final one here, at least in Heat 2. Top 15 will advance. Make sure you don't go anywhere after this, because we will have the feature coming up right after this. We're not going to go to a separate lobby. It's going to be right here. That will be 20 laps, and that one will be where the, not money positions, but free entries into the SummerSlam will be given away. Green flag is back in the air. 2 laps to go, overtime, and Heat 2 at Talladega. And a great start, too, for Matt Lee, but the problem is that inside is not lined up. J.R. Miller, the only support Lee's going to have for a little while here. They need Richard Elliott to get up there as soon as possible. Meanwhile, on the outside, Freddie has quickly got to the back bumper of Ethan Eckert, and I think this 12, without question, will get clear on the back. The question is, can he pull the 54 with him? Ethan Eckert will surge to the lead. Here comes the cavalry, though, on the inside. J.R. Miller gets to the back of Matt Lee. He'll draw even into 3. Eckert doesn't take it, and that might have been his only chance. Now he's stuck on the outside through 3 and 4.
And I think there was going to be a point there where Matt was going to hope that one of them dropped so he could push. But better scenario for Matt Lee now, because now he jumps in front of Ethan Eckert. And I don't think Ethan has anywhere to go except just to push Matt Lee. So, Matt's in a very prime spot, because I have a feeling, as strong as the middle has been, I think Matt's going to be able to clear down, and the race is going to be completely in his control.
Well, he's got less than 2.5 miles now to go. White flag is in the air. Matt Lee on the outside. Ethan Eckert doing all the pushing, and look how aggressive the 12's getting to the back of the 04 in the corner. We'll see if it's worth anything down the straight. J.R. Miller and Richard Elliott with a huge tandem down the back. Now they're going to draw even, still side by side. Who's going to get the momentum when it matters most? Whichever lane falls first, I think that's going to be the lane that ends up getting the momentum back and wins this thing. And right now it looks like it is that outside Eckert trying to get a little bit of air before he ducks back in line for the final time off of turn 4. Here we go. Down the short chute into the travel they come. Richard Elliott, Jared Miller on the inside. Now Eckert's going to split him. Freddie will go with him in the 54. Lee has no help. It'll go to the inside line. J.R. Miller wins Heat 2 at Talladega. Well, we questioned the move, Cody, and we got our answer. These guys wanted to keep it clean all the way to the end, and they certainly did that, at least in terms of the final restart, but they didn't want to stay as they were. Eckert tried the move, and you know what? It's a heat race. There's nothing on the line. I think he felt like they were in a safe spot at that point, so I have no problem with him trying that move in that spot.
No, I really don't either. And, you know, the heat is the time to test what kind of runs you can do because you want to learn now before you get in the SummerSlam. Personally, though, when it gets down to the big race, I think you really have to see that run coming to want to take it because really the move got Ethan nowhere, and the middle is where you want to be. But obviously, if they void the middle, then the bottom is where you want to be. But in Matt's situation, if he would have had anybody committed to pushing him, I really don't think that there was anything that bottom could have done. But again, I'd rather do what Ethan did and test that theory now than have to pay the ultimate price making that move and it not paying off in the SummerSlam.
Indeed. All right, well, let's take a look at your Heat 2 results here real quick before we look at the grid for the feature. And taking the win was J.R. Miller, Richard Elliott second, Ethan Eckert third, Matt Lee fourth, Freddie Bazanez in fifth, Bobby Forbes in sixth with, looks like, Ryan Philbrick in seventh, Kenny Reel eighth, Benjamin Richards in ninth, and Joey Galati rounding out your top 10. Joshua Sutherland 11th, Adam Tahan in 12th, Nim Silva 13th. Looks like, I think that's going on back to the 15th spot. Again, trying to pronounce all these guys' names right. Looks like Rafe Hatlin. And then we've got Noah Lurch rounding out the 15th spot, so he will advance to the feature. And we're going to leave it there because these guys are getting ready to get rolling now. So we're going to go right to your starting grid. And again, the reason we only did your top 15 is because those are the guys that did indeed advance to the feature here tonight. And still waiting on the grid results is... Looks like Heat 2 continues to get wrapped up here. Well, these guys actually have a warm-up, I think. It's looking like that here. Yep, 5-minute warm-up. Yeah. So if you want to take a chance, go get yourself some water. Whatever you want to do here is we will go ahead and finish off the results in that case. And so go all the way back to where we stopped here, which I believe was at Noah Lurch. So Sierra Clampert finishes in 16th. It's Jonathan Herbert back in 17th. And then looks like Gary Cronin-Wet finishes back in the 18th position. And they're rounding out the top 20 for Heat 2. It's going to be Todd Macy and Garrett Caswell. Devin Ray, 22nd. Mark Vondell, 23rd. Cal Petrie, 24th. Brian Hennings in 25th. Ashley Ellison, 26th. Grayson Underwood, 27th. Stephen Ross in 28th. Chad Walker, 29th. And Paula Walker rounds out your top 30. I'll tell you what, Cody. One thing, I don't know. I know you were finishing up the league race before you got in here, but two things that I've noticed from Heat 1 and Heat 2, maybe a little bit more so from Heat 2, is some of the drivers that, and when I say we've never heard of them, by no means am I trying to say that in a mean way. I'm saying that we just haven't seen them, at least over here on the PGR scene, and seeing them for the first time here tonight. There was a lot of guys that, they may have been considered one of the little guys, but they made a big name for themselves in terms of the aggression level, and I feel like a lot of them didn't get a chance to show all they were worth due to a couple of the cautions we had.
Well, and I think that's the idea as well that Michael Triscaro had for these recruitment races, because you're accomplishing the idea that you're going to add entrants to the SummerSlam. So check that box. And the second thing is you're raising awareness for not only PGR, but the money racing community as a whole. And this is a net win in both of those regards, because if we can come out of the SummerSlam and gain, how much of a stretch is it really to say, hey, we can gain 10 or 15 drivers? I think it can be closer to 20, honestly, But if we can come out gaining just 10 or 15 new drivers to the community that will be regulars, it's a win. You see the fields that we're filling for these recruitment races, so do the math. It doesn't really take very much of a turnover, or very much of like the holdovers, I should say. And you probably have some new money racing drivers that are not only going to fill the SummerSlam race, but they might start running in some of the PGR Intimidator Super Speedway races and other money racing races as well.
Indeed. Well, let's take a moment to talk a little bit more about the SummerSlam before we get underway here for the feature. Again, July 27th and 28th, so make sure you mark your calendars. The 27th will be the prelim day, and so that will consist of up to 5 50-lap prelim races, and that will determine the drivers that make it into the SummerSlam. Again, we'll have the exact in terms of how many drivers from each prelim advance, and then, of course, there will be an LCQ at the end of those prelims, the last chance qualifier for a couple of guys to still make their way in. And then Sunday will be the big event, 499 miles, which I believe translates somewhere around 188 laps or so. And that race, I think, gets started at, might have been, I forgot if it was, might be about 1 o'clock. Somewhere around that time frame. Again, we'll have all this and more over the next couple Thursdays during PGR. So if you got any questions, you can always check out the website. We do have it in the description of the stream, so make sure you check that out. And if you haven't got registered yet, certainly not too late, not too early. Make sure you get those signups in. The sooner the better, as already somewhere between a third and actually we might be over half the field signed up. Again, don't quote me on that. I am not the host. I'm just one of the broadcasters, but I know last time we checked in, it was over a third of the field had already filled up, and that was a little while ago, so I would assume pretty close to half at this point. So we'll have to see what happens, but, I mean, looking at that event, Cody, $1,000 to the winner and a belt, it's a pretty sweet-looking prize, and I'll tell you what, if I wasn't broadcasting, you better believe I'd be racing in it.
Well, I've seen you on the track, Austin, and you're no slouch. Just going off what you did in podium and ERA. So, you know, personally as a guy that's on the track, not going to lie, I'm kind of a little relieved that that's one less, really, I consider you a very good driver. That's one less very good driver that I got to compete against, because I will make the announcement. I did not know it until earlier today, but I will be in the SummerSlam race. I was able to move some stuff around, and my schedule is going to be very, very tight that weekend, but I do believe I will be in the SummerSlam.
There you go. And hey, you might want to say something about me, but you're one to talk. Got the ERA, of course, Omega Cup. I think, was it Spring Bowl or Omega Cup, whatever it was, the big race that they had. Yep, Spring Cup, and $4,000. So hey, looking to take home a little bit more in a couple weeks. But before we talk any more about that or anything else, let's look at tonight's starting grid for your feature event for the PGR SummerSlam Recruitment Race. Ken McCullough Jr., remember, your Heat 1 winner. He will start on the pole here. And then your Heat 2 winner, J.R. Miller, he'll roll off on the outside in second. Chris Walker back in third. Richard Elliott in fourth. Alex Hill fifth. Ethan Eckert sixth. Ron Morse Jr. in seventh, with Matt Lee back in eighth. Landon Veliky ninth. And see, hopefully I say this right this time, Freddie Bosnez rounding out your top 10. Wyatt Gray back in 11th. Bobby Forbes in 12th. And then moving on back to row number 7, Adam Young and Ryan Philbrick. Tucker McClendon 15th. Kenny Reel 16th. Billy Vast 17th. Benjamin Richards in 18th. Mike Davenport in 19th. And Joey Galati rounding out your top 20. Brock Westerland 21st. Joshua Sutherland 22nd. David Flanagan 23rd. Adam Tahan 24th. Edward Fielder 25th. Nim Silva 26th. Philip Willis in 27th. Rafe Hatlin in 28th. Tyler Forby in 29th. And Noah Lurch rounding out your top 30. And that is the entire field here tonight. As remember, it was 15 from each heat that advanced to this one here tonight. All right, again, look at your race info here real quick. Again, this will be a 20-lap race, looking at about 40% fuel. I think I heard it was somewhere around 16 laps. So we will have a pit stop then, at least from the sound of it, in this short sprint. I mean, 20 laps, not a long ways to go, but when you add a pit stop, that certainly changes the dynamic up of it a little bit. And then we will have 3 green, white checkers at the end of this if we need it, and caution should be on for this featured event. Biggest thing, though, here, Cody, and all the drivers have it in their minds, is what you get if you make it up inside that top 5. Free entry to the SummerSlam. And I'll tell you what, if you can go into any big event knowing that your entry was already sponsored, it makes things so much different. You feel like you can just go out there and race without having to worry about anything, because really you're already playing with house money at that point.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys are also relying on the free entry to be able to make the race. So it's going to be interesting. And I hope some of the dark horses that are going to rely on the entry can actually crack the top 5. With that being said, real quick, any favorites or any dark horses? How do you feel like this race is going to shake out?
I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm not going to steal what I was thinking maybe was your dark horse pick, which was probably Ethan Eckert from what we saw. But I do really like what Freddie Bosnez did in that second heat. He looked really good. I could think of a couple others, but I think he's going to be the guy that I'm keeping my eye on here. We'll see if he can find a way to get the job done. And I think as for one of the regulars, got to go with Alex Hill. Still relatively new on his return, but one of the veterans, and as aggressive as he is, I think this will play right into his wheelhouse. Here we go. All right, rolling into the Geico restart zone for the first time here tonight. Green flag is in the air. The feature is underway at Talladega, and it's a great start from everybody for the first about 5 rows deep. As Ken McCullough Jr. on the bottom getting through the gears, as does J.R. Miller up top. A little bit of 3 wide further back, but that's just due to some disorganization. Alex Hill already jumping up to the top, getting connected with his teammate Matt Lee. Freddie Bosnez just behind him in the 54. Watch for those two to go 3 wide here really, really quickly. And by the way, looking at that pit stop, Cody, I know that we have a mix of drivers. I think that almost encourages me to stay out and run this thing out, because I really wouldn't be shocked if we had a caution at some point.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I personally would not want to be among the first group to pit here. See who's pitting, and potentially if the field gets kind of spread out with the pit stops, I mean, you could stay on track and turn some lap times if people want to pit too early. But yeah, I think I'm just going to stay out and run it long.
Running it long might be the play, but right now Richard Elliott is running up front as, a little bit of a stack up there on the outside. I think that was Ethan Eckert was trying to bail off for Richard Elliott, but he was getting shoved by Alex Hill. And that stack up led to a checkup and now leads to big momentum for the inside lane. Look at this. Ken McCullough Jr. is going to get clear as J.R. Miller is in front. Ooh, I thought Ken was going to jump up, but J.R. is going to beat him to the punch. And now the 02 and the 78, not necessarily normal teammates. Ooh, Eckert, yeah, I saw that. Alex Hill showing why you got to make sure that you stay disciplined early. Ethan left him just enough of a little bit of wiggle room to slide in, and that's what some of the veterans do, Cody. They try to see if they can lull you to sleep, make you drift up just enough for them to squeeze into the middle. And so that'll be a lesson for Ethan Eckert right there, but it's kind of an advantage for Alex Hill as he moves up to that 3rd spot on the outside line. But back to my point real quick about Richard Elliott and J.R. Miller. They're not necessarily teammates, but they worked really good together in that second heat, especially coming down to the end. So maybe those two are planning to try to work together for this race too.
Man, it was about 3 weeks ago. I was in a race with Richard Elliott, and that guy raced me as hard as I've been raced in a very, very long time. Richard has been getting noticeably better here in the last month or two. It would not surprise me to see him up front and finishing in the top 5. If I had a dark horse pick, though, I think I would honestly, I know Ethan's probably the easy one because of how aggressive he is, but I've been kind of liking Ron Morris as well lately, and I think there's a good possibility if Kenny McCullough is anywhere up front, I think there's a good possibility you could see Ron Morris, if not winning the race, at least getting a free entry into the SummerSlam.
Yeah, again, remember, you don't have to win. You just got to finish top 5 from what we know. So, that maybe is kind of that, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe that little bump that you need at the end of a race to say, well, maybe in the heats I would have made the move, but, I'm in the top 5 here. We're coming to the stripes. Let me just stay in line here if I'm already in position. But, 5 spots, if these guys are 3 wide, is only the guys on the front row and then 2 in the second row. So you certainly got to stay on your toes and stay aggressive. And already have ticked off 3.5 laps here. And they are 4 wide in the middle of the pack further back. Oh, boy, surely this one doesn't work. Do they get it sorted out? Yes, they do. Davenport bailed out of it. I think that was David Flanagan just a couple rows up. That was the man who was partially 4 wide there for a moment. And, wow, just as quickly as they're 4 wide, they're back down to 2 wide. That's Tucker McClendon and Kenny Real next to each other. And just a row in front of them, Ryan Philbrick in the 06 continues his surge to the front. Biggest mover, though, in the top 10 so far is kind of a 3-way tie, it looks like, between Richard Elliott, Matt Lee, and I thought we had one more, but just outside the top 10. A couple guys making a few more moves. David Flanagan, he's up 9 spots from where he started as he rolls in 14th.
And Richard Elliott is really going to watch, and he's going to need to watch out of 4. It looks like he's been floating up a little bit, and just from watching from the chopper cam, I think Alex has been thinking about splitting Richard as well. So just something to keep an eye on. He needs to be very, very careful, because if he gives enough room to Alex with Matt behind him, I guarantee you Alex will split him. And he just looked for it again.
I think the other thing you got to be careful of is this early, Cody. We know that, even though maybe there's a good chance we do get a caution, if we don't, when we have that pit stop, I don't know that you necessarily want to be all the way at the back of this group for that pit stop. You'd like to be as far up front as you can, so you've got some track position to work with when you come out of the pits. Now, in terms of short pitting, I know we talked about it before the race. Certainly always a strategy. You can always give it a shot. Maybe if you're, you got 3-4 other guys that you feel really... Oh, there you go. Richard Elliott. Well, I don't know if... I think Alex split him in the middle. I think Alex got him in the middle.
No, he did. It was just what I was saying. Richard kept floating up, and Alex was looking for it. I was seeing it. Like I said, I was sitting overhead watching Alex peeking every single time he do it. But that spot was there, and Richard didn't want to give it up, but he realized Alex got under him. When you have a guy as aggressive as Alex, and I mean, people give him a lot of crap for as aggressive as he is, but it is very, very effective, I promise you. You cannot sleep on that guy when you're running in front of him. If you give him a car width, he will take it on you.
Certainly will, and I'll tell you what he's not doing, though. He's not making friends. Richard Elliott's saying, all right, I'll remember that if I get back up there for the end of this race. But again, it's a fair move if the gap's there, and I saw it a lot in podium. If you ever see the Coke Series guys, man, they do it to you so much, especially in the next gens. And you said it, Alex, he's done it twice now tonight, so everybody else, be on warning. If you are on that outside line with the 77 behind you, stay tucked close to that inside, because if you wash up and he finds a gap, he is certainly going to take it. And now he's got himself poking a nose out in front off of turn 4. As, one's going to go around further in the back. Couldn't tell who it was. Looks like it's a big save for Joey Galati, but he drives back up on the track. Wow, that was a close moment after a terrific save. But wow, what a save for Joey.
Going back up front, I'm going to give props to Ethan Eckert. He's watching what Alex is doing, and he just tried to split Matt, doing the same move that Alex has been doing. So Matt's going to have to watch his inside, because Ethan looked like he also wanted to take it. But Matt has been serving as like an insurance policy to Alex this entire time, where if Alex takes it, he has a guaranteed person behind him. But now the third is coming. Looks like Kenny Reel is pushing, and I can't tell who the leader of that is, but it looks like we got a couple people trying to threaten to make the third lane viable.
Yeah, I was going to say he needs to watch his inside, but he also needs to watch his outside now, because guess what? That third lane, it is alive and trying to grow, but it's not going to grow for very long if they can't get any more help. Only 2 cars, 23 of David Flanagan and the 11 of Kenny Reel. We'll see if anybody else jumps out, but right now I think everybody's pretty content to ride in line for the moment, as we'll be coming to 11 laps to go the next time we cross the stripe. Again, fuel is about 16 laps or so, so I don't think we'll see pit stops till we get close to about a handful of laps to go, and then depending on if these guys run it out, maybe even 3 or 4 laps to go, and of course, that'll just be a splash and go. So we'll see how it pans out there, but Alex Hill, big move to the bottom, and now what that does is gives Nightmare Esports control of not only that middle line, but now also the bottom as well, as you've got Lee in the middle and Alex on the bottom. Bottom surges as the top fades. Now a little bit of fishtailing going on, as they are all over the place with this 131-degree track temp.
And it's looking like Alex needs to clear up as soon as he can get it, because there is not really much for help right now for Matt Lee in the middle. The 54 is giving him a good push, but how long is it going to last? Because there's 3 up top, and I could see the top surging. If Alex is able to get clear of Matt, I think that's the move.
I think that's going to be the move for sure, but again, with that pit stop, at what point do they maybe get single file and stay that way on the bottom? Because we know that the runs can swing back and forth on the top and bottom, but at some point, if one lane gets hotter than the other, say in this case, maybe J.R. Miller is able to hold Alex Hill ahead of Lee to the point where Freddie Bosnes gets too hot, then that outside lane may never surge again. But you see Alex Hill, he's going to jump right back up to the top, as you called it, Cody. And now that they've gotten locked back up, it'll be the bottom lane where Ken McCullough Jr. now has a chance to do some pushing as he gives the chrome horn to the back of J.R. Miller. Ethan Eckert still leads up top, and what was just 2 cars for a little while has now turned into 4, maybe 5. Looks like the 33 has tried to jump on board now as well. That's Phillip Willis. Talked about dark horse picks. May not have had him in the cards, but he's doing a great job so far. He's up 14 positions from where he started this race at. And the driver out of Statham, Georgia, is looking to see if he can win himself an entry into the SummerSlam.
And I'll tell you, another really strong driver in this field that's ran a good race so far is Chris Walker. He's been, I think most of this race, he's just been third on the bottom, running a really, really quiet but effective race. Up front, J.R. Miller just been staying on the bottom the entire race. I mean, they're keeping their nose clean, and it might not be flashy, but, I mean, them are the guys you're going to have to look for at the end, because just as you've seen in the Ron Morris race yesterday, that bottom line will surge toward the end of the race, I feel like.
I'm looking at some of the other guys here that have maybe been kind of lurking in the shadows so far. I think Ron Morris Jr. in 24 fits into that category. Not surprised to see him making the feature at all. One of the talented veterans on McCullough Motorsports, but he's still, oh man, Matt Lee and Ethan Eckert. Wow, those two did not get locked together too well right there, and as Lee shot down to get clear of his teammate, he looked a little sideways. That was probably a hold your breath moment, as now that third lane has just about completely decimated. And the 33 of Philip Willis is in no man's land. He's going to have to drop in somewhere, finally does, further back. And oh, we're going to see pit stops. Look at this. We're going to have at least one, maybe a couple more peel off. Ken McCullough Jr. and the 24 of Ron Morris Jr. Two McCullough Motorsports teammates. Oh, they blow it, and a big hit out back behind them for a couple of... Wow. Well, Cody, if you're going to have a pit stop in a recruitment race, you almost kind of expect this. These cars very tricky to get into the pits, and it showed right there with multiple issues for multiple drivers.
Yeah, and I'd have to say, if you're any of the drivers out on the track right now, you have to be communicating, saying, hey, guys, like, let's turn some lap times. If you have 3 laps, if you have 4 laps to be able to push lap times, you do it. I mean, this could be the race for the guys that are out on track right now. No way I'd be pitting if I had any amount of fuel left.
And looking at some of the guys that pit, I'm not sure what happened to Philip there. He pit pretty late, and I mean, looked like he was slowed down okay, but then when he turned down from the racetrack to come in, just spun out. Ron Morris Jr. blew the entry, and then the 33 gets into the 58 there of Noah Lurch. That caused him quite a bit of trouble. We'll go back live now because I think we got more pit stops underway. Yes, we do. Oh, and Lee and Eckert, they got together somehow, and Lee went around. Oh, man, that's going to end Matt Lee's chances without a caution. So trouble strikes again here. Let's see what happens this time around. These two were kind of towards the front of the field here. Watch Matt Lee is, well, didn't mean to speed it up there. Back this up one more time. Does he get some help here? Watch the 78 of J.R. Miller.
No.
Nope. 78 never touches him. Lee just locks it up, loses it. Eckert does the same. They both spin in the middle of the group, but luckily they were on the pit boxes, so those two cars ghost, and nobody else gets collected. But, well, there goes two of the favorites.
Well, Matt Lee just let Lil Bro beat him out of pits, so I'm going to have to give him crap about that. He's been bragging about how strong he's been running, but Lil Bro just outperformed him in the pits, so that's one I'm not going to let him live down for a little bit. But, I mean, you got 3 guys connected up front right now. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of a tail, but, I mean, man, they are spread out. If I'm like J.R. Miller, Kenny Reel, Alex Hill, I mean, push lap times right now.
Yeah, I would have to agree, and even if they get caught, looks like the only one that would catch them right now, at least for position, is Landon Veliky, who's in that final 5th spot, 6th on back. Well, actually, excuse me, Brock Westmoreland is in 6th, but, I mean, after that, yeah, you said it, Cody, there's so much of a gap that if you're anybody in this top 5, even when they get linked together right here, do not make a move yet. 6 to go. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough, especially when there's only 5 cars. Just wait till we get to 2 laps to go. Oh, Landon Veliky up the racetrack. Man, almost got into Ron Morris Jr. right there. I was going to say, wait till we get to 1 or 2 to go, but, man, I don't think they want to.
No, this isn't smart. I mean, there's 5 spots pay for the SummerSlam, and you have 5 drivers. This is your cash right here. I mean, why not just duke it out on the last lap? And if anything, I want to be toward the back. When you're in a 5-car breakaway, normally you want to be like 3rd or 4th in that line. Like, why fight right now? I mean, you're only allowing the guys behind you to catch you. I question the move.
We'll keep questioning the move all the way to the finish, but as it stands right now, that second group is so disorganized that nobody up here is catching anytime soon. I mean, the gap was about 3.5. It's already almost past 4, and it is dropping in a hurry. I think the most organized of anybody up here right now is Joshua Sutherland, Freddie Bosnez, and looks like Benjamin Richards. But I just don't think they're going to have enough time with 5 to go unless, I mean, they were to get even racier than they are up front, and that second group were to get really organized really quickly. But it'll be 4 to go when we cross the line next time. But we got to get to the white flag for this race to be official. And what none of these guys up front want to see right now is a caution.
I'm looking in Discord right now. I do see Kenny Reel in Discord working with Alex. something just to keep an eye on is J.R. Miller might be a sitting duck right now with two guys that are working together. I feel like if they make that move, that's going to be where the momentum is, and I could potentially see, like, I don't know, what does Brock do? Because, like, Brock's going to want to work with JR, but there's going to be no momentum there, so it's going to get awfully interesting if Alex makes a late move.
Yeah, you got that right, and I agree about the fact that it'll get even more interesting with Brock Westmoreland, and I think that means that the timing of the move is the most crucial part here, right? You make that move too early, maybe it gives Brock and JR a chance to get grouped together, figure something out, and look at this, Cody. They're going to pick up a lapper, but not just any lapper, Richard Elliott. And remember how good him and JR Miller were working together earlier, so if he can stick with this pack right here, that could add a third car for support depending on when Alex and Kenny make that move to maybe try to assist that 78, who right now, I agree, seems like is a sitting duck as we'll be coming to 3 laps to go.
If I'm in Alex's shoes right now, knowing that I have a guy working with me and that guy's right behind me, I'm not making the move until I'm out of 4 on the last lap. I think anything shy of that, and I think he might be giving the race to JR, because then you're giving Brock a chance to get caught up and push JR, and you're allowing potentially Landon and or Richard Elliott to get there as well. So as long as they stay in line, I'd be waiting.
I would be waiting as well, but oh, look at this. Was this designed? Hold on just a moment now. J.R. Miller jumped out, and Alex Hill will now take the lead with Kenny Reel. But J.R. is going to get all the way in the back here with Richard Elliott. We'll see if Brock Westmoreland tries to react to this as well. That was an interesting move. What do you make of this one, Cody?
Man, I don't even have time to go back and look at it, but it would not surprise me if that was somewhat designed. Because maybe he felt like he was a sitting duck and he wants to get lined up with his teammates or guys that he feels more comfortable being with. I would not want to be leading this line right now. And I know that Alex has Kenny Reel behind him, but then again, like I said, it takes more than 2 to be able to get a push at the end. If Brock goes, I have to feel that Landon's going to go, and you also got to feel like, oh, there's a caution.
Oh, man, you have got to be kidding me. A caution, oh, that's going to change things up big time now, as it looks like it's Wyatt Gray who has come to a halt in the 54 Starburst machine. Down by turn 1. Let's back it up and see what happened here to the 54. And boy, they were about, I don't know, 1.5 miles at most away from making this thing official. And now they are going to have to go through a very, very chaotic restart where you have just put in a whole bunch of other guys now with a chance to win it. And oh, this wreck started in a different spot. Actually, looks like innocent victim there for the 54. This started with the 56 of Benjamin Richards. And he was, I believe, one of the cars that was in that second group that had been racing pretty aggressive for a while here. And yeah, that's exactly where the trouble starts. Let's see if we can figure out what happens here. Looking at it from the chopper view, the 56. Oh, well, it looks like he kind of left the bottom open there. And then, I mean, once the 06 gets under him, the question becomes then, does the 06 come up or does the 56 come down? It's close. Looks like a little bit of both. I think the 06 might have been slightly moving up because you see when he first gets under there that his lefts are on the double yellow, and then by the time they make contact, they're not there anymore. I just wonder if the 56 didn't quite realize he was there. Maybe didn't feel like that was his position. I don't know what the case was, but that's just hard racing at the end for a position. And now that they have a caution, this is going to certainly regroup things and give everybody a chance at it again.
Man, I could be wrong, but that's one of them cases that you almost feel like, I hate to call it intentional, but it's five positions advance to the SummerSlam 499. They knew that they didn't have one of those 5 spots. So you feel like those are the drivers that are going to be racing more aggressive and trying to force the issue. Again, that's just my assumption, but I know that a lot of drivers' mentality when they're not in a cash spot or they're not in a transfer spot, they're going to push the issue just a little bit harder.
Well, I certainly agree about them trying to push the issue 100% in that case. I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, I feel like me or you, we've probably said it before. I know I have, if maybe I'm a lap car at the end of the race or at the back, and the only thing you can do is try to get racy, get more aggressive. And I don't think the actual wreck itself here was intentional. I think that these two definitely ramped up the intensity to try to, get more racy with each other. And as a result, this was the aftermath. Is again, it just looks like the 06 is, Cody, here's how I'll tell you what, this is how I look at it in this case when I see something like this. If I'm the 56, I think I'm a little bit annoyed right now in the sense of I see him getting out of shape in the trial. I'm not sure what happened, if there was some prior contact between these two. Well, maybe we should see that first here. This is coming through the trial. The 56 behind Fred. Ooh, he hits the bump, gets a little bit loose, saves it, no issue there. But, you know, I think in this case it does make me kind of say, what's the point in really going under him right there? I mean, what do you gain? But, I mean, he does technically get there, I guess, and then once he does is when they end up making contact. But I feel bad for the 54 right there at the end of that thing. It's just nothing he could do. He was minding his own business, and tough break for the way it ended.
I think for the 56, probably the thing that he's most annoyed about is like, what are you really racing for? Unless it's to re-rack it, like, I definitely understand re-racking it and maybe giving yourself, like, an extra chance at one of the transfer spots if something gets crazy here. But other than that, like, it's just a cause for being annoyed because they weren't racing for anything. Sorry.
Would have to completely agree, but now it's time to head to overtime. I think we're getting ready to get the one-to-go signal up front. Alex Hill leads the way. Benjamin Richards in second. Actually, Benjamin might be... he's going around here. He might be going to the pit. So, yeah, Alex Hill scored in first. Freddie Bosnez in second. Looks like it's Bobby Forbes back in third with Ken McCullough Jr. fourth. And Ryan Philbrick rounding out your top five in the last transfer position for now. Well, not transfer spot, but rather free entry spot. And so as we get ready for this restart, we are going to take a very brief break. We'll go side by side and be right back for what could potentially be the final restart. Stick with us here on PGR eSports. All right, welcome back to Talladega Superspeedway, overtime number 1 here in the PGR Summer Slam Recruitment Race. Has already had a couple of these so far, going to have a couple more, but again, if you know, keep your eye out, join the PGR Discord if you want a chance to race in the Summer Slam. There's going to be a couple more recruitment races, and if you get yourself into one of these and capture potentially top 5, top 3, race win, whatever the deal is for that day, you could get yourself a free entry into one of the biggest money racing events of the year. 1,000 to win, along with a PGR Summer Slam belt. Here we go. Green flag back in the air. 2 laps to go at Talladega. Off to the races for Alex Hill and Ken McCullough Jr. Already 3 wide further back. I think that's Landon Velicki who's trying to get that third lane working, but you got to get these cars up to speed before that third lane's going to go anywhere. And don't forget, these guys have to make it back around to the white flag for this race to be official. They rack them up here on this first lap. We could rack them up, try it again. Freddie Bosnez with the big moves. Got to make it. Alex Hill looks for a block. That's going to cause a stack up. Alex Hill almost gets spun, but he's able to hold on to it. Bosnez able to do the same. Third lane rolling big time up top. How about the 18? Rafe Hatlin, where did he come from into turn 3? Oh, they're going to wreck. Oh, man, hold on to it. 3, 4 wide. There they go. Brock Westerman down into the 2. Joshua, and now they're all going to pile up. Cautions out as the big one through 3 and 4 brings out the caution for the second time here tonight. That is major damage to quite a few more big contenders and a couple of guys who are fighting for it here at the end, as that's the view for Joey Gladdy, or rather the camera shot of Joey Gladdy, and trying to figure out exactly how much damage he has. But let's go back, take another look here. All right, so this is, well, it starts further up again with Brock Westmoreland, and I think it was the 23 of David Flanagan. So I'm trying to find Brock Westmoreland here first off. All right, here we go. So we're going to go to the zoomed in cam and watch. So there's Brock Westmoreland here. And then, oh, it's not the 23, excuse me. It's the 12 of Ethan Eckert. Two that make contact first, and they're 3 wide, and then they kind of awkwardly almost go 4 wide right here. It looks like Ethan Eckert tries to dive his nose in there, and him and Brock Westmoreland end up getting tangled together, and as they do, that's what initially sparks the wreck, and then, of course, it's on from there. It's going to be a free-for-all, but watch this contact again between Ethan Eckert and Brock Westmoreland. Now, with the position they were already going to be in here, Cody, again, I think this is one of those scenarios here where I think as Ethan Eckert, as talented as he is and as much as we've seen, by no means am I saying that it's completely his fault here. I mean, in fact, it looks like Brock actually comes down a little bit, but you know, it's one of those things where cause and effect. Was it really worth trying to put him 4 wide versus just pushing him there? I mean, you're already pretty close to the front. In fact, if he pushes Brock, maybe they get a chance to get clear, maybe go try to make that third lane work, but instead he forces the issue, tries to go 4 wide. That puts Brock in a little bit of an awkward spot, and then Brock just, you know, starts to work his way down. And I mean, honestly, from Brock's position in the race car, Cody, he might have believed that he was 5 wide.
Yeah, I think if I'm Ethan, as disconnected as the third was, I think I just push Brock, because there was plenty of spots to be had, and he really wasn't in a bad spot. I just think that was an unforced error on Ethan's part. Now, I get that he did have the spot, and Brock did go down, but I just don't think that was the best play. It causes a caution, but again, like, he thought he had the spot, but I think the best play may have been just to get connected to Brock, because as disconnected as that third was, they would have rolled him.
Well, if there's going to be a time to make any sort of mistakes, now is probably the time. And Mark Math in the chat says the 4 got loose. And yeah, I could probably agree. Now, these cars are darty in general. And so when you say get loose, or at least what I would think of it is that when they're 4 wide like that, a little bit of wheel movement is just enough to get him down the racetrack. Now, I think if the 12's not there, Brock probably saves it. I mean, everybody's loose. But when you get, you know, 3 wide, things start to get tight. Once you get 4 wide, things are really tight. And with the way these cars have been handling here tonight, it's going to be a tough ask to try to hold a pretty line in that case, and just unfortunate for Ethan Eckert and Brock Westmoreland to get tangled up with each other, as they were 2 of the best drivers in the feature here tonight with a great shot at it, and their chances are going to come to an abrupt end here. As get another look here, a couple more views rather, at the rest of the wreck, is Ethan Eckert might have actually escaped here relatively unscathed. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, he did. The real carnage was out back with Brock Westmoreland and company, so Eckert will actually be able to continue on. And it's Brock Westmoreland and multiple others that will have to, unfortunately, retire from this race. So up front, Alex Hill, still your leader. Freddie Bosnez in second. Ken McCullough Jr. in third. Bobby Forbes fourth. Ryan Philbrick in fifth. David Flanagan in sixth. Rafe Hatland, boy, let's stop here for a minute, Cody. I mean, what a run. He took advantage of what he saw with that stack up on the middle. Jumped to the top, and I'll tell you what, I know Alex made that block, and it wasn't a bad block by no means, but do you have to be careful there, because that third lane got pretty organized, and if things played out a little different, Alex could have maybe found himself buried a couple spots back with a run from that third lane with that block.
Yeah, it looked like he also got out of control and finally gave up and went back down to the bottom lane, but, you know, Alex is probably the most aggressive driver in the field. Honestly, there's probably no probably to it, but he was playing with fire there, and he's lucky to have gotten out, you know, out of the wreck and not actually have been a part of the wreck. And honestly, I think he's lucky to even have the lead right now. But if I'm Alex, probably tone it down just a little bit, because I don't think Freddie or Bobby's probably going to give him too much room after the blocks that he just threw, or Kenny for that matter.
I have to agree. Well, if you're just tuning in or you've been watching all night, we certainly appreciate you being here. Again, just a little bit of we'll call it pre-special event hype, if you will. Decided to put on a broadcast for all these guys here tonight. You know, I know that as a driver, at least when I was first starting in iRacing, always loved the chance to see what it looked like from the broadcast perspective, you know, and you don't get the chance to do that if you're not a money racing a lot. So hopefully all the race fans and the drivers did enjoy it. We're not going to have interviews here tonight. Unfortunately, I do have, work really, really early tomorrow, so going to head straight to bed once this thing does wrap up. But we're going to have a big pre-race, post-race show, you name it, for the SummerSlam. Looking forward to it. And again, we announced it earlier. Maybe not call it fully official yet, but basically at that point that the broadcast crew for all the SummerSlam festivities, prelims, post-race, pre-race, the LCQ and the main event are going to consist, the broadcast team is going to consist of myself, Austin Green, and then it's going to be Cody Nagels, Dawson Wise, Jacob Emery, and Michael Triscaro. And so some of the best broadcasting-wise that PGR eSports has to offer. Excited for that. Going to be a three-man crew for the LCQ and the main event. Look forward to releasing that here in about a week or so. All right. Overtime number 2. Again, got to make it to the white flag for this race to be official. Alex Hill looking to see if he can find victory lane. Freddie Bosnez, that was the dark horse pick. I had him down. Let's see if he can get the job done. Here we go. Don't count out Bobby Forbes either. The 5 on the bottom. Where did he come from? Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go at Talladega. Off to the races right away for Alex Hill. But look at this. He did not get any help from Bobby Forbes Jr., who just didn't get a good start. And now Freddie Bosnez has all the momentum in the world to play with. What's he going to do here? Alex might have to do a little blocking, but he's going to stay up top. Freddie stays committed. Does Freddie look for a crossover? You got to make a decision here as a driver. One of them's going to have to duck low sooner or later unless Alex can hold the run at bay for the entirety of the backstretch. Trying to do so. 3 wide, a lot of blocking up top. Now one's going to go around. It's a 12 of Ethan Eckert. Went for a spin. Eckert's going to tag the inside wall. His race will come to an end as they try to keep it clean up front. Alex Hill jumps to the bottom, and now Bosnez is going to lose a little bit of help.
Man, Alex is doing a masterful job of blocking and going lane to lane right now. Very, very impressed. And it doesn't look like Bosnez is very comfortable with all the blocks that's going on, but masterful job right now by Alex Hill. But we'll see if Bobby Forbes can get him potentially pushed clear going into the tri-oval. And I think Bobby Forbes seriously has a shot at this. Bottom lane is very, very formed up right now.
Well, Alex has slammed the door on the 54 so many times. I think he broke the hinges, and I don't know how much more Freddie's going to take. Final gas down the backstretch to 54, pushing the 77 for all he's worth. How about on the bottom, the 06 of Ryan Philbrick, pushing Bobby Forbes to the lead. Could Bobby Forbes complete the upset? He will go to the point on the bottom through 3 and 4. One around out back is J.R. Miller. He's trying to save it now up front. Bobby Forbes gets loose. They're going to wreck. They're all wrecking up front. The 5 goes around. Who sneaks through to win the race? The 06 gets through the 18 with a shot. Does he pull high? No. Yes, he does. The 18 goes to the top. Drag race. Rafe versus Ryan. Rafe Hatlin gets the win at the line, steals one as all the leaders wrecked, coming out of 4. And how about that? One of the underdogs gets the job done. What a win for Rafe Hatlin.
Man, Austin, just want to say, I mentioned it's good if you're in Michael Triscaro's shoes just for PGR turnout-wise. You want to see the underdogs get some of these paid spots. Rafe Hatlin, Ryan Philbrick, you guys just punched your spot to the SummerSlam 499. And I told you, Ron Morse, do not sleep on him. He is a very, very smart driver. Love to see him on the bottom step of the podium right now. Joey Galati, Landon Valecki, good job, guys. I mean, that's a very strong top 5. And guys that are very deserving to be in the SummerSlam 499. And again, guys like Kenny and Alex are already going to be in. I'd say some of the guys that actually punched in the top 5 probably would have, but you do like to see the underdogs that may not have joined the SummerSlam 499 without a free ticket. It's good to see those guys win and finish inside the top 5.
You got that right, and I can promise you we'll be talking to a couple of the underdogs that raced their way in, such as what Rafe Hatlin did here tonight, probably in the pre-race show for the SummerSlam 499, but I mean, wow, what a way for the race to end. Let's go back and take a look at the checkered flag moment for Rafe Hatlin, and I'll tell you what, I'll give him credit there because he had a chance to be conservative, but he decided he wanted to go for it, get some momentum while you're at it. I mean, they weren't in a position where they were most likely going to wreck, so I think that was a safe move to make, and the real question is, boy, what goes wrong up front here for Alex Hill and company? As it started with, looked like Bobby Forbes Jr. I got to think there's just a lot of really aggressive pushing going on the bottom probably, but let's back it up here so I can get us to a chopper view. Yeah, the 06, he's pushing the 5, and You know, you see up top, they're doing the same thing, Cody, and I think that just whittles down to experience. You see the 06 starts to get a little bit offset there, and when he does, starts to get Bobby a little bit out of shape. And I'll tell you what, I certainly feel bad for that 5 machine because he did the right job there, especially at the end, Bobby Forbes, of getting back to the front and was doing a nice job, took the lead on the last lap when it mattered most, but then once he gets turned up the racetrack, I mean, it's on from there. This was a huge melee that collected just about everybody except the 2 that snuck through. As Alex Hill, Matt Lee, all the pieces, debris flying everywhere, smoke. Richard Elliott slides in the 02, or rather the 2 has nowhere to go either. And then Landon Veliky, who you saw make that slim move between the pit commitment cone in the front, and that saved his chances, as I think it would have DQ'd him if he would have went into the pits. Then this was your race all the way to the line right here between these two. It was a pretty close one. Margin of victory looks like was about 0.04 of a second for Rafe Hatlin over Ryan Philbrick. And watch this one more time. The 18 had a move here. It looked like he's going to stays committed, but he peaks up. And I think he made it the timing perfect, Cody. Gets the side draft, gets just enough, and then makes sure to go a little bit higher up the racetrack so that the 06 can't side draft him back. Boy, what a race, what a finish. And you said it, what a win for Rafe Hatlin, who we will now see racing in the PGR SummerSlam 499.
Yeah, that was a very fun race to help call. Looked like the bumper hook, if you will, on Bobby Forbes. It just looked like it's the same issue that we've been seeing with the B car, where if you're not completely off the corner, the car that you're pushing, if you're offset right at all, it just tends to send him down to the infield. And unfortunately for Bobby Forbes, that's just a really tough break. Bobby was definitely going to be inside the top 5 and get his free entry into the SummerSlam. So very tough break for Bobby Forbes, but for one man, what is heartbreak? For another man in Rafe Hatlin, he gets the win and punches his ticket. So it's nice to see these new names, and hopefully, as I spoke to before the race, hopefully some of these guys will stick with the money racing community even after the SummerSlam 499.
Absolutely. We just took an onboard view, by the way, for Landon Veliky on that last lap, actually coming out of turn 4, and he was in the wreck, did a wheelie for, I don't know, probably about 20 feet or so, landed, the front end was completely ripped off of the race car, but he still managed to regain control, drift it back onto the grass and then the racetrack just before he hit the commitment cone, and you saw that he just snuck in. So what a piece of driving there at the end as well by Landon Veliky to make it through that last lap incident. All right, final results here for the night. Again, your race winner here tonight, underdog Rafe Hatlin gets the job done. Ryan Philbrick brings home second, Ron Morse Jr. in third, Joey Galati in fourth, Landon Veliky in fifth, and the last spot, and last free entry, if you will, into the SummerSlam here tonight. Adam Tahan in sixth with Nim Silva in seventh, Joshua D. Sutherland in eighth, David Flanagan in ninth, and Kenny Reel rounding out your top 10. Mike Davenport back in 11th, Bobby Forbes in 12th, Alex Hill 13th, Ken McCullough Jr. in 14th, Jerry Miller 15th with Richard Elliott in 16th. You got Noah Lurch back in 17th, Freddie Bosnez in 18th. Rounding out your top 20 here tonight is going to be Ethan Eckert and Matt Lee. Tucker McClendon finishes 21st, Tyler Forbie in 22nd, Adam Young 23rd, Brock Westmoreland 24th, Chris Walker 25th, Edward Fielder 26th with Benjamin Richards in 27th, Wyatt Gray back in 28th, rounding out the field here tonight, Philip Willis in 29th, and Billy Vest in 30th. All right, well, that is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight. What an event it was. Again, what a great win. Congrats to Rafe Hatlin. We'll see him in the SummerSlam. And as for everybody that tuned in here tonight, we appreciate you being here. Might have more to come in the coming weeks. Don't forget about PGR tomorrow night with some Thursday night money racing. As for tonight, that'll do it for myself, Austin Green, and Cody Nagels as well. We appreciate you joining us. You were watching PGR eSports. Until next time, have a good night.